Positive spell work can do harm, the same as baneful spell work. It's a conversation that not a lot of practitioners that I've run into are ready to have, because they have this preconceived notion that the light and the dark are separated by a clear divide, that one is beneficial and one is malicious, that one does good where one does bad. However, the lines between those two things are very, very blurred. A friend of mine gave an example that expresses this in a very perfect way. Say somebody comes to you to get a job spell done. They really want to get this job. They might not be quite qualified for it, maybe they are, but you do that working for them and they get that job. Think about the other side of that situation. There were other candidates for that job. Your client would say that that working you did for him was beneficial, but those people who were beat out for that by someone possibly not as qualified, by someone who possibly didn't need that job as much as they did, they would view your working as harmful because it was harmful to them while it benefited your client. I want to add to that with something like, say, a negative working. Say you do a breakup for someone. That's inherently a negative working, but for your client, that benefits them because it gets them what they want in the end. They can get their ex back, or they can get a chance to get their ex back, etc. They view that as positive, but the target of that working would view that as negative and harmful because it destroyed their relationship. There are always two sides of the coin. That's also why people tell you when you're doing something like a prosperity working, be very specific, because while you can get that prosperity you were asking for, it could come in the form of an inheritance that you weren't ready to receive. Sorry, that was a very low-flying helicopter. Anyway, the concepts of light and dark, black and white, positive, negative, beneficial and malicious, these things are subjective. Your view of whether or not something is one or the other depends on your situation and how you're viewing that particular thing. What is good for you is bad for someone else. What is justified to you is unjust to somebody else. What is chaos to the fly is good to the spider. You know, it's not everybody's going to view it the same way, which leads to seemingly the lines of morality being blurred when it comes to spirituality. But it's not that the lines of morality are blurred. It's that the perception of the situation at hand is blurred. Just because you perceive something one way doesn't mean that everybody else will. Just because you think you're correct in what you're doing doesn't necessarily mean that you are, but in that moment and in your world, you're correct, where somebody else feels that you were wrong. That is why we cannot go and judge other people's practices, tell them that they're doing wrong, yada yada, because we don't know the details of that situation. We don't know what is going on that caused them to do that. You also have to remember that there are people who deal specifically in the left hand. That's all they do. They can use the left hand to benefit people the same way that a light worker can use the right hand to harm. And it is said by a lot of older practitioners, emphasis on older practitioners, that a witch who cannot hex cannot heal. That is because negative energy is a lot easier to manipulate than positive energy. That's going to be a subject for a different video, because while it's a little bit related, it is completely its own thing. And I will go into that another day. But while you're here, since you viewed this long, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a whole lot. As always, I appreciate you being here and listening to my ramblings, because I don't script shit. And I will see you in the next video.